Alright guys, so we looked at event listeners, the event object, mouse and key events. Now I want to discuss event bubbling and event delegation. So event bubbling is the bubbling up of events through the DOM. So when an event happens on a particular element in the DOM, it actually will bubble up through its parents. So for instance, if we were to put, let's say, a click event on this span right here, this card title, now that event is actually going to bubble up to its parent. It's going to go to the card content, then it's going to go up to main, then it's going to go up to this div, and so on. It's going to bubble up. All right. Now event delegation is almost the opposite of event bubbling. It's where we put the listener on one of the parent elements, and then we use logic inside of the event handler to target the element that we actually want that click for, or whatever type of event it is. So it could be any parent. For example, what I'm going to give you as an example is use these list items here. So we're going to put the event on the UL, which is its parent, and then we're going to target the list item that we want. Now this is actually needed in this situation because all of these links, these are actually what I want to target because they have the class of delete item, and we want to target this link right here. So since these are all the same, we need to use event delegation. All right, but before we get into that, I want to give you a better example of how event bubbling works. All right, so let's go over here. Let's say event bubbling, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say document dot query selector, and we're going to grab the card title class. Okay, which is this right? Yeah, I think is it this or that? Card title is, yeah, task list. It's this right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an event listener for, whoop, why isn't this working? For click, and we'll just put a function in here, and then we'll say console.log, and we'll just say the element that it is, which is card title. All right, so let's save that, and let's go up here and click, and we get card title. Now, just to prove to you that this bubbles up, what I'm also going to do is put an event listener on its parent, which is card content. All right, so we're going to change this to card content, and then we're going to console log card content. All right, now card content has a parent of the ID of main, so, or the class of card, actually, we'll use that. So we'll go ahead and paste this in, and we'll say card, and then we'll just say console log card. Let's take it a step further and go to the class of call. Paste that in, change this to call, and we'll just say console log call. All right, so with event bubbling, what's going to happen is that when I click on this card title, which is task list right here, it's going to bubble up, and then all of these will actually be called. Even though we're not going to actually click on any of these, they're going to be called. So I'm going to go up to right here, task list, and click. And look at that. All of those events, all of those fired off. I didn't click on any of those things, but they fire off because of event bubbling. It bubbles up the DOM. All right, so I think that should give you a good example visually of how that works. Okay, so I'm going to just comment all this out, and now we're going to look at event delegation. Okay, and it can kind of be described as the opposite. We're putting the event listener on a parent and then going down. All right, so let's go ahead and, you know what, before we get into that, let me show you what happens without delegation in this situation where we have all these delete item classes. So if I were to say const, we can't use delete, that's a reserved word. We'll say delete item and set that to document dot query selector. Okay, we want the class of delete item, okay, which is these links all have a class of delete item. And then we'll do delete item dot add event listener, click, and then we'll call a function called delete item. Actually, I can't call it that. Let's call it, we'll call this del item. Alright, so del item add event listener calls a function called delete item. And let's just do a console.log, and we'll just say delete item. Alright, so let's save that. And what I'm going to do is go over to this link right here, which if we inspect it, you can see it has a class of delete item. Alright, so let's go ahead and click on it. And in the console we get delete item. Now let's reload the page and let's click on the next one. No delete item. Okay, none of these other ones are working. Only the first one is working. Alright, so this is a situation where we need to use event delegation. Alright, another situation where you need to use event delegation is if you dynamically insert something into the DOM through JavaScript. For example, if we insert a new list item that was not there when the page loaded, then you also need to use event delegation. So I'm going to comment out these two lines, and instead of putting the event listener onto, right onto that delete item class, we're going to choose a parent, okay? And this could be anything. Actually, we'll just put it on the body. We can say document.body.add event listener, and we'll say click, and we'll call delete item. Alright, so if we leave it just as is, you can probably guess what's going to happen. If I click anywhere in the body, we're going to get delete item, and that's obviously not what we want. We want to target these here. So what we need to do is go into our function here, our delete item, and we need to find the target. Alright, so if I console.log e.target and save, and whoop, we didn't pass in e here. Okay, so if I click anywhere, you can see it's going to actually give us the element that was clicked. There's the list item, there's the H5, there's the, whoop, that actually got redirected. And if we click on here, now this is something else we're going to have to address. If I click on this X, it actually gets the I tag, which is in the A tag. Okay, you can see it's actually getting this instead of this, so we're going to have to get the parent of that. But we're going to get to that in a second. So you can see that we can get the target wherever we click. So we have to do a conditional statement here. And there's a couple ways we can do it. A lot of times you'll see if e.target.className equals a certain class. Alright, so delete item. Or something like that. Now, like I showed you, the target when we click here is actually the I tag. So that's what we're going to have to search for right now if we want this to work. So we'll say FA has a class of FA and then FA-remove. Okay, and then down here, I'm going to just take this console log delete item out and paste that in there. We can get rid of this. So now, if I click anywhere else, it's not working, right? And if I click on the X, now we get delete item. And if I click on any X, we get delete item. So it now works rather than just choosing the first one. Now, I don't want to deal with the icon. I want to deal with the A tag around it, which is its parent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say target.parent element. Okay, remember we learned about this in the traversing lecture. But if we get parent element and we say equal to delete dash item. Now, if I save this and we try this out, it's not going to work, because if we look at that A tag, it also has a class of secondary content. And what this class name does is it looks at the entire string that's inside the class attribute. So we have to match that whole thing. So we would also have to do secondary content like that and save, and now that works. Now this isn't really a great way to do it, because if for some reason you add, like let's say the last one here, we add a new class of test and save, now the last one does not work because it doesn't match that class string because we added test. So a better way to do this in this situation would be to not check the class name, but to use class list and see if delete item is in that list. Alright, so I'm going to keep this so you guys have it. I'm going to copy it and then comment it out. And then instead of doing .class name, we're going to do class list .contains. Okay, and then that's actually a method, so we want to get rid of that in this. We want to say contains, and then the class that we're looking for, which is delete-item. Okay, so now if we save, now it works. Alright, and even if we were to go to that last list item and in the link put in another class like test, it's still going to work. Okay, because it has that delete item in there. So that's the best way, in my opinion, to target one of these links. All right, now let's actually add the functionality of making this delete the list item. So remember, when we click this, we're targeting the target parent element is the A tag. Now, if we look at our markup here, we want to delete the whole list item, which is the parent of the A tag. So what we could do is we could say e.target, which is the I tag. Remember, it's the icon. Get the parent element, which is the A tag, and then get the parent of that, which is the list item. And then we can simply remove. Alright, so now let's save that, and let's go ahead and click the X here, and it will remove it. Okay, so we can now remove our tasks. If I reload, it's going to obviously come back because this is just in the UI. We're not persisting data to a database or anything like that. But you can see we can remove them from the DOM now. So the whole definition of event delegation in simple terms is just putting the listener on a parent of what you're looking for, and then putting a condition in here to find the target, okay, using this e.target, and then doing your functionality there. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too confusing. In the next video, we're actually going to start on this entire application. It's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to be able to add to the list, delete, which we actually just did right here, but we're going to put it into a way that is a full application and structure it nicely and so on. Also implement the clear tasks. We're even going to add a little filter so we can filter through the list items. All right, and then later on, after we talk about storage, after we talk about local storage in the browser, we'll make it so that these items or these tasks will get saved in local storage, so that when we close the application or we reload, they'll still be there and we can actually persist the data. All right, so thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.